Welcome, friends and listeners, Brennan Inquisitors. I'm Jake.
I'm Jax. We are your Cosmere commentators. Join us this week as we dive into the Coppermind.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Into the Coppermind. This week, we are going over Elantris, chapters 22 through 24.
Yes, we are. And any announcements, or are we diving right into it?
Not really. I think we're just we're good. It's kind of late here, so don't mind us if we get a little loopy. I think
loopy's the word.
I think loopy's the word.
We were going to record this episode this morning.
Yes.
And then Jake I guess it was more like this noon.
Yeah, we were like, oh, we could do it this noon, this afternoon, whatever. And then
Jake was like, hey, can we actually do it tomorrow morning? And I was like, yeah. Sure.
My wife had come up with some stuff that she wanted us to do together, and she was like, can't you do it tomorrow? And I was like, well, let me ask Jax. So I was like, can we do it tomorrow morning?
And I was like, for shizzle, dog.
For shizzle, my guy. And then we were driving home from said plans.
And Jax is not at home. Jax is out and about. And because we had decided to do it tomorrow, didn't finish my assigned reading.
Yeah.
I was going to finish it tonight so that we could record tomorrow morning. And I'm out and about, having a good time, enjoying my Friday evening.
And me and my wife realized that we actually had plans tomorrow morning that we didn't want to miss. So I called Jax at like 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, dude, how's it going? Hey, would it be okay if we record it tonight?
So I left what I was doing, came home, finished my reading while Jake set up the studio.
Yeah.
We have to set up and take down our studio every time because it's literally like, this is a corner of my room.
Yeah, we don't have a studio. We have a foldable table that we shove in Jackson's closet and like all the stuff. So we got table, chairs, lights, mics, tripods, like big light. All of it folds down and we shove it in his closet.
Yes. Right now, I'm sitting with my chair. The back of my chair is like touching my door that I need to use to get out of my room. And the back of Jake's chair is touching my closet door.
Yeah.
So this I can't leave this up. So anyway, Jake came over and was setting up the studio while I finished my reading. And now it is almost 10 o'clock. It is 9:55.
But these chapters are very short.
These are very short chapters.
So it's not going to be, usually when we record, I'm here for like 5, 6, 7 hours sometimes.
Yeah, because we're doing podcasts, which typically takes us 3 or 4 hours.
Well, 3 hours to record, for setup.
Yeah,
takedown.
Setup, takedown. We do a break in between our two parts of the episode typically. So about 4.5 hours.
Yeah,
all of that, and then we're recording TikTok.
Yeah, we record other content while we're together in here and while our lights and everything are set up. So it takes some time.
Yeah, but we're not doing any of that today. We set up. We're gonna record. Hopefully, we're gonna be done before midnight. And I'm kicking Jake out and saying,
yeah. We're dipping, So
with that,
one parter. We're going to try.
Oh, we are. We're going to try to do this in one part. We're going to try to do this in under 2 hours.
I know we've said that.
We have said that, but there's only 22 pages in these 3 chapters.
And there's not tons of heavy conversation.
No. And there have been times where we've had entire chapters that were longer than 22 pages.
Yes.
So we're really hoping that today is the day.
So saying all that, let's dive right in. Let's get through it. And we can both go home, or you can stay here.
I can go to bed.
I can go home and go to bed.
And I can take 5 steps that way and hop into bed.
Yeah, that must be nice.
Jake, what is our Aeon?
The Aeon at the top of these chapters is Aeon Deo, which we see in Kian's wife's name, Deora, and it means stability and security.
Okay.
Yep. Good.
As well as Kian's son's Deor.
Yes. Okay. We start off. Raoden and Galadon are sneaking into the market area of Elantris,
which is Sheor's territory.
Yes, they're going to try and see who Sheor is because no one's actually seen Sheor.
Yeah, they've got all this hearsay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
all of these rumors of like Shayor and how like terrifying he is and powerful and all this stuff. And obviously they've dealt plenty with Shayor's gang,
Yeah.
but unlike Karada, Shayor never goes out with his men.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of this suspicion, maybe this thought that does he even like is he even still alive?
Yeah. Is he
First off,
alive
is he
or
just one of the mindless beasts that's running around with everyone? Like maybe we have seen
yeah.
Shayor and he's just one of the mindless beasts running around, or maybe he's dead and they're just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so
So
that's kind of what they're trying to discover.
they're going. Raoden gets saved by fate here.
Yeah,
Raoden slips, and it's the classic cartoon. Like he slips, he dips his head down as he's falling, and then like someone misses their attack because he's falling, and it's
yeah,
like that's crazy.
yeah, crazy.
Um, so yes, that happens. They're sneaking around. He slips. A madman jumps out and attacks, but misses because Raoden slipped.
Yeah, it said Raoden felt something whoosh through the air above him.
Yeah. And they Galdon then hits him with some wood, and then like hits his head with a rock to like kill him or
The
to like
madman,
the madman,
not Raoden.
not Raoden. The madman.
But it was a little difficult, and Galadon says to Raoden, he's like, they're getting stronger, Asuli. Like, they seem almost oblivious to pain.
Yeah, and so we're seeing like the two different ways of like how people are dealing with pain in Elantris. It's like Raoden's give them purpose and they'll forget their pain, and then you have Shared's madmen that are like becoming so feral that it's almost like they don't feel the pain anymore.
Yeah, they talk about like having seen warriors who grow so enraged during combat that they ignore even mortal wounds, you know?
Yeah.
And so that type of like just being able to push through the pain.
So are Share's men feeling the thrill?
Nergaul. Are we talking about Nergaul?
Yeah. I just that just popped in my head.
No.
Because like in Stormlight a lot when you're seeing men, usually the Blackthorn, be taken by the thrill, like it's almost like they don't even feel pain and they can just like fight on no matter what.
Yeah.
So almost same, not same though.
Not same.
And Galadon goes, all they have to do is surrender their humanity.
Yeah.
For this to happen.
It says they're getting desperate because they haven't captured a newcomer in weeks.
Yeah, Shayor's men haven't.
Shayor's men, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Raoden's band has been capturing them all. And Raoden says here, I'm sure he's joking in a sense, but he's like, maybe they found the final secret to stopping the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No, they haven't.
No. Not the right secret. Maybe they have found a secret, not the right secret.
Yeah, Galadon's like, dude, we should have brought Sail in, like for protection.
Yeah.
Raoden's just like, he's not really the sneakiest of guys, but it actually comes out that he actually just didn't want to be pampered.
Yeah.
By Sail and
because
his
if
men.
they brought Sail in, he would have insisted on bringing like at least 6 guards with them as well, who all treat Raoden like a
king,
a prince.
Yeah, a prince, like something he is. You know, maybe the most important person in Arelon.
Yeah,
probably that. So they sneak in basically, and Galadon's like, "Oh, if I were to set up in the market, I'd probably set up in the bank. You know, the most secure place, easily defensible. Blah 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 blah."
Yeah. So they go to the bank.
Yep, they go to the bank and they peek in. And actually, before we get there, I did want to say that the Elantrians themselves probably didn't need a bank. They didn't have money. Like, they could create gold or precious things, you know. So the bank was for just the people, non-Elantrians, who wanted to safeguard their money in Elantris. But Raoden actually talks about how it was smart for his father not to put his money in the Elantrian bank because they would have lost it all when the raid happened. And so that's actually one of the things that helped King Iadon secure his spot, is because he had all his money outside of Elantris.
Because he didn't trust Elantris.
Yes, yeah. So some like misguided like luck, I guess, there for Iadon.
Yeah. It talks about like their plan to come in here And Galadon had protested, it says, for hours when Raoden was like explaining this plan. The doula had called it foolhardy, pointless, dangerous, and just plain stupid. He hadn't, however, been willing to let Raoden go alone.
Yeah.
So we see a little bit of like, we really like Galadon.
We
and
really
this
do.
is like, this is part of the reason, right? He's like, Dolokin, Suli, like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
This is Kayana. But I'm not gonna let you go alone.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. We love. You just said Kayana and it jogged my memory. I recently, so I'm rereading The Way of Kings, my personal read, and there is a chapter in there that Galadon's in.
Yeah, it's one of the
interlude. It's one of the interludes. It's Ishik's interlude, not Ishik, but it's like Ishkk. So it's just pronounced like Ishk. Yeah.
Ishik.
And he's a pure Laker.
Right.
And this is when, so Galadon, for those of you who don't know, is a world hopper. He joins the 17th Shard, and they eventually are looking for Hoid on Roshar. So we see Galadon at the Pure Lake, and as he's leaving, he starts swearing in the doula slang.
Really?
And he says Kayana in there. And I heard it, and I was like, oh yeah, Galadon. I love that. Anyways, you said Kayana. That jogged my memory. Moving on.
Yeah. So yeah, they're still like debating or like trying to figure out, whether or not Sheor's alive. And I thought it was interesting here. It says something told Raoden that Sheor was alive, or perhaps he simply wanted to believe so. He needed an adversary he could face. And I thought that was interesting. Is like Raoden would rather deal with like a mad warlord or anything than have just all these men like running around being crazy by themselves. Because if it's a warlord, it's someone he can talk to, reason with, like deal with. If all these people are just feral and bestial by themselves, not much he can do.
Not much he can do there. So they make it to the bank, and they're looking in, and they see the vault door, and it has a large circle etched with a thick Aeoned Edo, which is safety and protection.
Which makes sense. But I also like wanted to see Aeon Dio, which is gold.
Oh, yeah.
I believe Dio is gold, right?
I think so. It's either Dio or Dio. Take a check. Dio. I think maybe it would be cool to see, because well, we'll get there. I'll point that out a little later. So they look in, and they hear a high-pitched voice wailing, "Bring me food!"
Which is a wild surprise.
Wild surprise.
Because they're looking for, like,
warlord.
Bring me food.
Oh, yeah. And it's a young girl in a pristine, unsoiled pink dress. She had long Aeonic blonde hair.
Which is an important note, because we're in Elantris. Nobody has hair.
Yes.
So she's got long, flowing blonde hair.
Which Raoden assumes is just like a permanent wig.
Well, he knows.
Yeah.
Because he knows exactly who this is once he sees her.
Yes. And another funny thing a little later. But so it's this little girl, and she's sitting on a throne of gold bars. And so I wonder if the gold bars have Aeon Dio on them.
Okay, interesting. Yeah,
rather than the vault. Yeah. Are you looking for where it says she's on a throne of gold bars?
Yeah, I must have missed
Says at the back of the chamber, sitting on a pile of what appeared to be gold bars.
Nice.
Which
makes sense.
So we learned that Sheor's men basically like worship her as an idol, a goddess, whatever you want to call it. And that's all there is to it, is this little girl screaming for food, and all these men just like worshiping her and doing whatever they can to bring her food.
Which is crazy.
It's kind of crazy, but it's kind of cool.
But yeah, he basically, Raoden talks about like how they've reverted to a primitive way of life, which kind of Neanderthal era way of life, and a primitive religion. And Galadon's like, hold it there, Suli, like, careful with your words. Like, a lot of people call Jesker a primitive religion, And Raoden kind of takes it back. He's like, all right, maybe I should have said simplistic.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was interesting. One other note I had, they're running away, right? Because
Yeah, so Shayor spots them
yeah,
and goes, "Kill them."
yeah.
And Raylan's like, "I don't know my," and then like sprints out of there with Galadon.
So they're running,
Mhm.
and Galadon says, "If we weren't dead already, Sully, I'd kill you."
Yeah.
And then it says Raoden nodded, leaning against a wall. So they've been running for a little bit. They're taking a breather. They're I'm assuming nobody's right behind them.
hmm
Says he was getting weaker. Galadon had warned him it would happen. An Elantrian's muscles atrophied the most near the end of his first month.
hmm
Now, have you ever experienced muscle atrophy?
Not really, no.
It is wild. So I broke my foot
Okay.
a couple years back, and so ended up having to get surgery. Had a plate and 5 screws, and couldn't. I didn't put weight on it for like 4 months. And I played soccer growing up, and I also ran track and cross country,
hmm
and so I've always had like pretty decent calf muscles.
Yeah.
And during that whole time, my right calf muscle obviously just got like stronger.
Yeah.
But we took the cast off of my left calf muscle, and but like when they were not flexed, you couldn't tell much of a difference. Like it, but I would flex my right muscle, and there was muscle. I
Uh-huh.
would try to flex my left muscle, nothing. Like there was no visible change. Like it was crazy to me how quickly all of that. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
it came back just as quickly. Once you've built muscle, it's pretty easy to build it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just made this like so real for me
Yeah.
of like the muscle atrophy that they've got to be experiencing. Their muscles just gone,
Yeah.
you know? And to be trying to run and do stuff like that in that scenario, wild.
Wild. So they actually they run up a side of a building and hide on the roof. And Shayor's men just don't think to look up. That's where they are when they're having like this conversation, I think.
Yeah, let's restate run up the side of a building because I'm like thinking like wind runner, like changing
Okay.
gravity, running up the side.
All right. Calm down. It says the old tricks worked the best. They had eventually lost Shayor's men by climbing up the side of a broken wall and hiding on the rooftop.
All right.
Just use your brain a little bit, all right?
Brother said they ran up the side of a building.
So they start talking about Shayor, and Raoden's like, it's some kind of permanent wig. I recognize her. She was the daughter of one of the most wealthy dukes in Arelon. Pause. I stopped reading right there, and I was like,
You gotta stop doing
I need to stop doing this, but I stopped reading right there, and I wrote, Telri, question mark? And then I went onto the Coppermind, and I did my due diligence, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, it is Telri's daughter. I was like, this will be a fun tidbit to say on the pod. Read the next paragraph, and it's like, her father, Duke Telri. Read, Jacob. Just read before you do all this work. Ah. Anyways,
You're hilarious for that.
I just like I find a thread and I like to pull it.
Yeah.
And I just like I hyper focus on this thread. When really, I just need to like unfocus my eyes a little bit and notice the next paragraph has literally Duke Tellery in the first line. But I just don't.
But you just don't.
And it's sad because then I like do all this work and then I go on and I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck?
But interesting tidbit. Thanks for letting us know that that's Duke Tellery's daughter.
So Shayor's Duke Tellery's daughter, if you didn't know.
And her name is not Shayor. It's based off of Aeon Soai.
Which is order/organized.
Yeah. So whatever. But her name he thinks is like Soini or something, but Soini.
So whiny.
So
That works so well.
Soini.
It's definitely so whiny.
That's hilarious. But it does say her father Duke Tellery. Oh, so Galadon asked when she got thrown into Elantris. And Raoden's like, over 2 years ago, her father, Duke Tellery, tried to keep the matter quiet. He always claimed she had died of Dionia, but there were a lot of rumors. And that right there, I'm like, okay, so Duke Tellery's daughter gets taken by the Shaod. He tries to cover it up by saying she got sick or whatever and died of this disease.
Yeah.
but there were a lot of rumors anyway. And that just brought up to me, like, where are the rumors about Raoden? Why are those same rumors? Because same thing.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, why are those rumors not flying? Like, Sereni seems to be the only one who's given it a second thought. And the reason that they have given that is that the people just don't like to think about Elantris.
Yeah.
And they don't, like, correlate it with that. But it's telling us right here that they do. So I think that's an L on Brandon's part.
Yeah, I mean, like, rumors can come from anywhere, though. Like, maybe some noble saw the priest taking in a little girl into Elantris the same day that Duke Towery announced that his daughter died of Dionia.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, rumor. You never know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But they threw Raoden in this, like...
Yeah, but, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway.
So they eventually go back to their kind of base, which people are starting to call New Elantris.
Yes.
They run into the Sentry, a stout younger man named Dione, which is steadfast or immovable, which, never mind, I was going to say is the same as the chapter heading, but it's not.
Nope.
But it is the same Aeon that's in Dionia, the, like, disease that he gave for his daughter. I don't know. I just noticed that just now and thought I'd point it out.
Yeah, cool story, bro.
Okay, screw you. He said Captain Saolin was quite disturbed by your disappearance, and Raoden's like, I'll make sure to apologize, blah, blah, blah. Goes on to say that they found a section, like New Elantris, they kind of sectioned off a part of Elantris for New Elantris, and that it had a small wall going around about half of the perimeter. And the original purpose baffled them.
Yeah. But we know what that is.
We know that it's most likely part of the Aeon Elay for the Elantris Aeon. The whole city is an Aeon.
Yeah.
If you didn't know by now. So I would assume that this half wall is part of the Aeon.
Yeah. That was my assumption as well. But there's this area that they've cordoned off. There's only 11 entry points into this area. And so that's kind of why they've chosen it, is because it's got, very few entry points. 11 still seems like a lot.
I know. When I first read it, I was like, it only has 11 streets leading into it. And I was like, 11? You couldn't find a place with like 4 streets leading into it?
19.
They should have went to like a corner. I know it's a circle, but they should have picked out a part around the wall that had not as many streets going into it.
Yeah. But anyway, they had placed sentries basically at each entry point so that they can always be warned. And they're kind of talking about a little bit. It's been working so far because Shaor's men aren't organized.
Yeah.
And haven't organized. And so they'll send a small group in, but their, watchmen will see it soon enough that they can call Saolin and his troops, and they can converge, and they've got better weapons, better training, and so it just works to batter them off. But Raoden's just super concerned, because at some point, Shaor's men are going to get smart about it.
Yeah.
And attack from more than one point at a time, do a concentrated attack, and they're just not going to be able to defend themselves.
Yes. So moving on, Raoden starts having a door attack. We see here, he said, Raoden began feeling sick as they walked towards the chapel. It was as if his body were encased in a blazing fire, his flesh, bones, and soul being consumed in the heat. Yikes there for Raoden.
Yeah.
And he starts, it's interesting that he starts having this door attack and his thoughts go extremely negative.
Yeah.
Right from he starts hurting And right away, he's like, he goes, I failed them. He said quietly, which is like, if you've known,
If you know, you know.
if you know, you know. This is a deep dive, so I guess we'll point it out. Raoden eventually goes hoed.
Yeah.
For a little bit. And his hoed mantra is, I failed you, my love. I failed you. And so hearing him only halfway through the book go like, I've failed them, as he's like having a door attack. So as he's like living in the pain, he whispers like, I failed them. It just like hits harder, knowing how it is later.
And Galadon responds,
kind of just normally.
Yeah, he's like, we can't always get what we want on the first time. Because Galadon's just like, Raoden is thinking like big picture, like, I am not going to be able to save these people, like all this stuff. I failed them. And Galadon's just thinking like, oh, we went to go talk to Sheor and it didn't work. You can't always get what you want on the first try, you know?
If you at first you don't succeed, try again, Sully, you know? But then Raoden's thinking, he was like, I was lucky, a lucky fool.
Yeah, because Galadon says, I never thought you'd get this far.
Yeah.
You know? And so Raoden, again, inner pessimism is like, I've gotten here purely by luck.
Yeah. And then Galadon notices that like something's wrong with him. Yeah. He's like, are you okay, Sully? Like, you don't look so good.
He's like, I've never seen you like this.
Yeah. And in her thoughts, Raoden's like, I must be strong. They need me to be strong. And then he like pushes through the agony and he's like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
I'm all right.
And he's like, I don't think you're fine, Sully. I don't know.
I think he's fine.
He's like, I'll be all right. I'll be all right. I was just wondering what we're going to do about Sheor.
You missed.
What did you say?
I said, I think he's fine.
You're stupid.
I know. I'm sorry. So yeah, they're talking about what they're going to do about Sheor.
Galadon's like, he'll think of something, and Raoden thinks, or we'll die.
For good this time.
Oh. And then Raoden crushes some rocks with his hands.
Because Raoden, at this point, was leaning against a wall, catching his breath.
Yeah.
Because they've been running. And so he like pushes against the wall to stand up, and the wall crumbles beneath his fingers.
And then like Raoden once again.
Oh my goodness. Like just calling it out.
Is on, like, he knows exactly what's going on, but he doesn't get it. Yeah. It's crazy how many times in this book that he has said exactly what's wrong.
Like, not even just like in world, in cell, what's wrong. Like, cosmurically, he's like so on point here.
So he starts talking about how like this marble is softer than soapstone. Mm-hmm. And Galadon's like, oh, it's Elantris, things decay quickly here.
And Raoden's like, yeah, but stone?
And so he's like, it's all connected somehow, Galadon. He goes on to be like, and he's like, the door is linked to Elantris just as it is linked to Arelon itself. Boom.
And Galadon's like, why do you think the door would do this? Like, why destroy the city?
Raven's like, maybe it's not the door. Maybe it's the sudden absence of the door.
Which is exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
And we've already talked a little bit about this in the sense of like savant.
Yes.
Like being an allomantic savant is kind of the same thing.
Yes.
Where when your body gets infused by investiture for such a prolonged period of time, it gets to the point of dependency.
Yeah.
Where you are dependent upon that investiture, and if you take it away, bad juju.
Yeah. So you get so dependent on the investiture that it changes your spirit web.
Yeah.
And so once you no longer have that investiture, your spirit web breaks. And that's what we're seeing with the Riod, and like Riod Elantrians, is all their spirit webs are broken because they're dependent on something they don't have anymore.
Yeah.
It's similar how like if you suddenly stopped taking in air, bad juju to your body, you know, your skin would turn purple and you would not live, you know, but you get it.
Yeah, I get it.
It's similar to that
now,
but you're getting just enough air to live.
here's where I take just slight issue with this. Because in Allomancy, when we see savants, it's because somebody has been flaring their metal consistently.
Yes.
Our best example is Spook.
Yes.
Who just flared his tin constantly. Tin burns very slowly, so he just never ran out. And so he would just flare it all the time, even when he was asleep. He had his tin on. And we see him once or twice wake up and he ran out of tin in the night and is struggling until he gets his tin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it took time to change his spirit web and to make him dependent upon it. And same thing with Elantris. Elantris had been infused by the door for so long. And so when we see Elantrians, and when the Riot happened, all of the Elantrians who had been infused for so long totally makes sense that they would be Riot Elantrian.
Yeah.
The issue that the slight issue that I take that I don't have much of an answer for is when somebody gets just taken by the Riot.
Yeah. By the Sheod.
The Sheod, sorry. Post Riot, they've never been dependent upon the door. They've never have it infused. And so it's hard to for me to oh, they fell from being so dependent upon the door when they never were.
I think you would just have to go with the Sheod, the transformation someone takes to become an Elantrian changes their spirit web.
Okay.
So
I can take that.
Yeah. Changes their spirit web in such a way that their spirit web is now dependent on the door. And since they don't get any of the door, Riot.
Okay. I'll take that.
I think that's the simplest answer we can give.
Yeah. I like it.
If there's any other type of answer, Brandon would have to write it into a book, but it's just based off it needs to work.
Yeah.
That's how it would work, I think.
Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, Raoden, right, hitting the nail right on the head, knows exactly what's going on, but just doesn't clock it.
And I'm gonna read a little bit of this because he does actually in the Cosmere, he gives a really good explanation of what this is, right? So he says, maybe it's the sudden absence of the door. The door was a part of this city. Every stone burned with its own light. When that power was removed, the city was left hollow. Like the discarded shell of a small river crawler that has grown too big for its skin, the stones are empty. And Galadon's Sully, how can a stone be empty? And Raiden's like this, my friend, holding up this crumbling stone. The rock spent so long infused by the door that it was weakened irreparably by the Riot. The city really is a corpse. Its spirit has fled. So I just love, again, him just absolutely hitting the nail on the head and having absolutely no idea what he's talking about.
Yes. But he's it's so crazy how, Brandon had to kind of make him know it. Because how else would we get this information other than Raoden speculating like this? But it's so on the he gets it. It's so perfect. Anyways, Marishi then comes up and he's my lord spirit. And Raoden's what is it? Another attack? He's no, something different. Don't really know what to make of it, but we're being invaded. It's by whom? We think she's a princess. It is funny. So this is obviously Serene starting her widow's trial, coming in with some of the nobles to distribute food.
Yes. So it gets a cut. We see Raoden crouched on a rooftop with Galadon. This is kind of the rooftop they've set up, the observation area to see the Gate of Elantris for when new people are being thrown in.
Yeah.
And so they're just watching all these people. And a lot of them are just they've brought a cart in and they're all crowded around the cart, huddling, uncertain what to do.
Yeah. And
Raoden says only one, he doesn't say it, but he's noticing only one person looked unafraid of what she saw before her.
Yeah.
And I'm that's my girl Serene.
Yeah. So he clocks her. He's that has to be her. And we're going to zoom through this part a little bit because it's not super important, but Raoden's kind of crap. We're in trouble.
Yeah.
This is,
they pull a sheet back.
As tons of food. And so Raoden's it's not the right time. The people in Elantris are finally starting to gain independence and start their own thing. They're just going to become, dependent on their hunger again. because they have food so readily. But in 3 weeks, when this is over, it'll go back to how it was before.
Yeah, Galadon questioned him at first because as soon as they saw the food, Raoden's like, Hydos, don't mind.
Yeah.
Like, Galadon, we're in trouble. And Galadon had already started salivating.
Yeah.
Like, he was like,
well, why?
What trouble, Susie? Like, that's food, and my intuition tells me she's gonna give it to us. So I don't see the problem. But yeah, exactly that. He's trying to create change, and this is just gonna upset everything. And then it says down here, like Raoden whispered, like, "Oh, my dear princess, you probably mean well, but handing these people food is the worst thing you could do to them."
Yeah. They also talk a little bit about Cher. He's like, what are we going to do if Cher's men come and attack these people?
Yeah.
Like, we're all going to get executed if any of them die.
Right.
So, like, this is going to be dangerous.
Yeah, because he says that his father just kind of ignores Elantris because he doesn't have to think about it. But
Yeah.
if that were to happen, if one of the nobles were to die, his father would execute Order 66, you know?
Yeah. Funny you say that. Have you even seen Star
No.
Wars? Good reference, though. That was good. Kind of. So it comes out that Serene wants to talk with the 3 tyrants of the city. Her info's a little outdated, so
Yeah,
she's
she like steps forward and like yells this to the
she's like, "Give me Aendin, Karada, and Sheor. Like, present yourselves." And so Raoden thinks on his feet. He's like, Marishi, get a runner for Karada. Tell her to meet us at the university. And tells Marishi that he's going to be playing Aendin.
Yeah, because Marishi's like, I can go get Karada myself.
Yeah.
And Raoden's like, no. You need to practice.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be playing Aendin.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing. Aendin's still around.
Yes, but he's Tay now. Yeah. And he's like,
not interested in leadership.
No. Yeah.
So yeah, he's like, you have to practice being Aendin. And I wrote in here, I was like, I don't remember acting being on Marishi's resume. Like he's this artisan and he like has all these attributes and like all that stuff. I was like, I don't remember him saying that he was like the star in his 12-year-old play, you know?
Yeah, I'd assume Raoden's just like, you're here, we don't have time, you're someone I trust.
Loyal,
yeah. You were one of the first, like you're in my corner.
Marishi was the first, other than Galadon.
Yep.
Marishi
was the first
number 1.
The first they collected.
And
that's the end of Raoden's chapter.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
We're only 38 minutes in.
Sweet. So let's move on to our segment. Oh, what did he say? This is our Words of Brandon segment where we go week by week, switching off who is asking a Words of Brandon and who is answering as if they were Brandon themselves. And we are keeping score each week. The score is currently Jackson 1, Jacob 3, and Jax now has a chance to make it Jackson 2. So, here we go.
Okay.
Are you ready for your question?
I'm ready for my question.
The question is, does Risen have a torment? Now, a torment is basically what Nomad calls his conditions for being a Dawn Shard.
Yes.
So for him, it would be he can't physically hurt anybody, and I'm sure there's
can't eat meat,
stuff like that.
Which, interestingly enough, is a mental thing more than a physical thing.
Oh, okay.
So, because I read another Words of Brandon about this, Hoyd could eat soulcast meat.
Because he didn't think it was meat.
Yeah. Well, because if he knew it was soulcast, he could eat soulcast meat because there was no. It's the inability to do harm that prevents them from eating meat. Because so if it's soulcast meat, it wasn't once living. But the person went on to ask, could he eat real meat if he thought it was soulcast?
Ooh.
And he could. Like,
okay.
So it's not just he can't eat meat, it's the idea of meat.
Yeah.
That prevents.
And I mean, even the not doing harm to people is a mental thing because we see Nomad push through it.
Yeah.
For like kinda a little bit. So anyways, Risen picks up a Dawn Shard in the short story Dawn Shard. And so they're asking if she has a torment. quote unquote.
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say it's not the same one, but that she does have something similar that would be a torment.
Okay, final answer?
Final answer.
Locking in?
Lock it in.
I'm sorry, you are not getting a point this week, Jax.
What are you talking about?
The score is going to continue to be 1-3. Brandon says, no, she does not. She has not yet held the Dawn Shard long enough for anything like that to have surfaced. So they go on to ask, will she? And he says, yes. She might not call it her torment, but holding the Dawn Shard will change her spirit web immensely. So I'm sorry, but I can't give it to you.
I hate you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's awful. I don't like that at all.
But that's the wob. That's the word of Brandon, and that can't be changed. What do you think her quote unquote torment would be?
Spirit web changed immensely is wild to me. I'm
Mhm.
excited to see what he's doing there.
Yeah.
I have we don't even know what primal command she holds.
Yes.
And so it's really hard to even speculate what her torment might be.
We know. Oh no, I think we do.
Do we?
Because we know
Maybe
two. We know two of the commands. One of them is change, and one of them is. Can you look these up real quick?
Known Dawn Shards. Change, exist. Those are our two.
And
exist is the one that Hoyd has held.
Okay. Does it say if change is the one Risen holds?
Change is the one that Risen holds.
Okay. So Hoyd's is exist.
I guess the correct verbiage is change is the one that Risen is.
Yeah. That would be the correct verbiage. So I guess you can't really connect the torment with the command. Because exist and then not.
I think you kind of can.
Not being able to hurt.
Yeah, to not hurt is kind of to let exist.
Okay. So maybe to let change. She can't stop things from changing.
Yeah, so exist. There is also a Dawn Shard that was long in the possession of Hoyd with the intent to exist. One of the side effects of having held this Dawn Shard is the ability to feed on investiture to heal oneself.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Holding this Dawn Shard can also cause the person to stop aging, remaining the same age as the moment they first picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Enough time holding this Dawn Shard can make a person that possibly may never die or be killed, like Hoyd. Crazy, dude. Dawn Shards are crazy.
Dawn Shards are crazy. We don't have tons of time to get into them.
We're gonna move along.
We're gonna move on. So jumping into Serene's chapter, we basically just pick up right where we left off. She is in Elantris. She has Eondel and Shuden coming with her to go talk to the three gang leaders. And Lord Spirit, or just he tells them he's known by Spirit.
I actually love that. I'm going to pause you there.
Okay.
Because she asks him, what is your name? And his response, he pauses for a minute. And I feel like the way he worded his response is because he doesn't want to just lie to Serene.
Yeah.
You know? And so his response was, they call me Spirit. Not my name is Spirit, but they call me Spirit. So he kind of he answered her question, but he avoided the question.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to lie. Anyway.
So, yeah, Raoden is basically leading them to the university. And she's like, what's your name? And he's like, they call me Spirit. Serene thinks it's a fitting name for this man who is so much a ghost of what he once must have been. And he actually remarks...
He's got no idea.
Yeah. And so they're going. She's kind of just in her head a little bit. But they make it to the university. And we have Karada and we have Marishi waiting there. And she's like, Aendon?
Why did she start with that name instead of Sheor or Karada? That's that was my only question.
I don't know. She just started with one. She goes, Aendon, and Karada steps up and she's like, and Karada. And she's like, what do you want? What do you want from us?
And then Serene, a little confused here because she's got Aendon and Karada standing together.
Yeah.
amiably.
Yeah.
That's a
She's
word.
like, I thought you were enemies.
Yeah.
And they were like, you know what? We found it was more beneficial to be partners or allies.
Yeah. And she's like, and the man known as Sheor? And Karada's like,
Mm.
one of the aforementioned benefits.
Yeah, yeah. So Andin or Marishi is like, we rule Elantris now, princess. What do you want? And she's like, I want to bribe you.
Yeah, so she pauses because originally she was planning on playing the 3 gang leaders off of each other.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what her plan was to
No
do
clue.
that, but she has to rethink her entire strategy now because she's now dealing with 2 leaders on a united front as opposed to 3 leaders, against each other. And so she just says like straight out, like, I want to bribe you.
She's like, well, let's be frank. You're obviously not very good at this, and so extended negotiations would be a waste of time. I want to bring food to the people of Elantris, and you're going to resist me because you think it will weaken your hold on them. A lot of assumptions
Yeah,
coming out of Sereni here.
yeah.
Because she's wrong,
'Cause
you
no.
know. And she's like, what will it take for you to let the people to come get food freely? And so they write down some demands.
Yes. Karada's like, you got somebody, you got a pen and paper? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we about to hand you a list.
Yeah, so they do cloth, various grains, some worked metal sheets, lengths of wood, straw, and oil.
Which surprised Sereni because she was expecting them to demand weapons.
Right. And she's like, oh, I guess how you conquer Elantris is not the usual way. It's just whoever can control the
Basic
basics.
necessities.
Yeah, the basic necessities is what she is realizing.
One of the other assumptions that Sereni is making.
Yeah.
Because they're not trying to dominate Elantris like she assumes that they're doing.
Yeah. Not a great look for Sereni this chapter.
But to be fair, the reports she's heard
Sure.
are, the reports from a month ago where it was 3 warlords who preyed on everybody who was thrown into the city and then left them to rot,
Yeah.
sometimes with egregious wounds,
Yeah, you're right.
So,
So she says, like, I can get all this for you, but you can't forbid anyone from coming to the courtyard. Rule as despots?
Mhm.
Despots if you wish, but at least let the people suffer with full stomachs.
yes. So that's Sereni's like one stipulation is
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm going to be bringing food in. I'll get you everything you demand, but you can't forbid anybody from coming and getting food. And Karada's like, you have my word. I will keep no one back. I just wrote their lies.
Straight lie into her face, because obviously they're going to keep Sheor's men back.
Right.
But Sereni doesn't
For
know.
good reason.
Yeah.
Like Sereni doesn't know what she's asking.
Yeah. And then we get an oddity, our very first POV change within a chapter, because it switches to Raoden's POV here in the middle of Sereni's chapter. So Marishi's like, what? Listen.
Okay.
Marishi's like, was that good enough, my lord? And Raoden's like, Marishi, that was perfect. This isn't Sereni's POV.
True. Sorry, I thought you were saying it changed to Marishi's POV, which
No.
I don't think it does.
No.
But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I was just saying POV change to
Except-
Raoden.
Yeah.
But it's in Sereni's chapter. And then it'll switch back to Sereni's POV later in this chapter.
Yeah, that's actually crazy.
So they're kind of like just talking about how the meeting went. And Galadon's like, oh, she suspects something, Suli. Blah, blah, blah. And Raoden's like, yeah, but she doesn't quite know what.
Yeah, she doesn't know what she suspects. I thought it was funny here. So when Marishi, started talking to Sereni, it says his pompous, self-important attitude was about what Sereni had expected, which means they're doing great, you know? But Marishi's here like, was that good enough, my lord? And Raoden's like, Marishi, that was perfect. And, Raoden was like, Marishi, that was perfect. And Marishi was like, well, my lord, I do my best. I haven't much experience with acting, but I do think I played a properly decisive and intimidating leader. Wrong.
Wrong.
Marishi was not decisive nor intimidating, but He was exactly what they needed.
Yeah, I think.
But I just think it was funny.
Yeah, I think Karada giggles at him.
Yeah,
There.
Karada, like, Raiden caught Karada's eye. The gruff woman was trying very hard not to laugh.
Yeah,
Like,
it's good.
Because they both know, like, no, you were not decisive nor intimidating.
Yeah, nothing much really comes out of this POV change. They're just
talking about the meeting.
Yeah.
And they talk about adding a stipulation into their clause that will allow Rayoden to be present at all of the food distributions.
Yeah, I will like to say this. Rayoden says, I don't think she likes me very much. Karada's like, she thinks you're the lackey of a tyrant. Is she supposed to like you? And I was like, true. However, I think, and then they talk about the change in the, like, letting him go to the distributions.
Yeah, because he says, I want to keep an eye on her. She doesn't seem the type to do anything without multiple reasons.
Yeah.
So I want to know what made her decide to do this.
And then it switches back POVs, and we get almost the same line of like, well, that went well,
From Eondel.
From Eondel. And Shuden's like, you got away easy. Like, the things they demanded can be obtained pretty cheaply.
Which is crazy to me that the things that they are in such, like, dire need of in Elantris, so cheap. Like, it's not hard things to come by. It's just the basic, like, bare minimum necessities.
Yeah.
They don't need food. And so it's just like, yeah, could we make some clothes that aren't covered in grime? That's what they're worried about here.
Can we get some oil to light some lamps?
Yeah.
Like, that's it. That's all they want.
That's all they want.
Like some wood that's not squishy, maybe. Yeah.
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 So Sereni's like, I hate to deal with people like that. And Shuden actually jumps in and he's like, I think you're judging them a bit too harshly.
Yeah.
Like, they might just be people trying to get by with what they're given.
Yeah. He's like, they didn't really seem like tyrants.
Yeah.
They're just, like, trying to make the best of a crappy situation.
Yeah. She goes back to, like, what Ash has told her. Like, Ash saw a lot of atrocious things, like Sheor's men diving onto newcomers and stuff like that. And she's kind of like, I have sources that say all of this, that terrible stuff is happening.
Yeah. To be fair, though, Ash hadn't seen a lot of that himself.
Yeah.
He is getting all that information from the Elantris City Guard.
Yeah, and she realizes.
And so Shuden, she's like, I've got sources that are saying this.
Yeah.
And Shuden, like, raises his eyebrow and, like, looks over at the Elantris City Guard, and it says the group leaned lazily on their spears, watching with uninterested eyes as the nobleman began unloading the cart.
Yeah.
And so he's like,
Sereni's like, all right.
okay.
There might not be the most credible source, but, still, blah, blah.
But you can see from just what we've seen here, like, you can see the hollow eyes and apprehensive steps of all of these people. They live in here. Yeah. And it says, I've seen it before. And this I thought was, like,
interesting.
Yeah, she's like, I've seen it before in Fjorden, Hrovel, and a half dozen other places. And I was like, I didn't know Sereni got around like that. Like, I didn't know she traveled all that much.
I did, because she was a diplomatic
an
ambassador for her father for a little bit.
Okay.
So she's been all around. But I thought it was more interesting that she's seeing oppressed people.
Yeah.
Because we know that Fjordell got rid of, like, the slavery.
Yeah, the serf system.
The serf system a while ago. And so how oppressed is she really seeing people? Like, you would think in Fjordell, it's kind of like booming, is it not? Like, they're the powerhouse of the continent. I don't know. But apparently people are oppressed there. And also in Hrovel. Which isn't that where our
6 other places.
Isn't that where our
I think so, yeah.
Mushroom guy is?
Yeah. What's his name? It's not important.
It's not.
It's just I like remembering people's names.
I don't.
Okay.
Apparently.
Yeah, well, you're just
Anyways, they go on and they're like, it'll be fine, or I'll be fine, and so they start unpacking the food.
And Sereni's in there working.
Yes.
And so Eondale, he's like, my lady, like, get down.
Like, yeah.
We can unload the boxes.
Yeah. It's not proper for you to be up there doing that.
Yeah. And Serene's like, I want all of us to take part in this. Like, she's like, I didn't bring servants for a reason because I want everyone to take a part because I want you guys to feel this, not just like be here.
And she looks over to Ahane.
Dude, freaking Ahane.
Overweight boulder of a man just sitting in the shade.
And she's like, that includes you, my lord.
Yeah. So he comes over. He's like, I hope you appreciate my sacrifice, Serene. This slime is absolutely ruining my cloak.
And she's like,
I told you to wear something not expensive.
Yeah. She's like, we were coming into Elantris. It's covered in grime.
Yeah.
You knew this. And not only did you know this, I specifically told you, don't wear something expensive.
He says,
freaking Ahane.
I don't have anything not expensive. And then who was it?
I think it was
it's Royale. It's hilarious. He's like, you mean to tell me you actually paid money for that robe you wore to Noaden's wedding? It wasn't, he said, I wasn't even aware that shade of orange existed, Ahane.
Which, man, I don't like Ahane.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody in here likes Ahane. If you do,
we're not friends.
We're not friends.
Yeah.
You don't. I don't know what else, I don't know how else to say it. Ahane, not a good person.
Yeah.
And I really like start to despise Ahane. Like, I didn't despise him before. I really hated, like, obviously when he turns his back on everybody and betrays, that whole scene. But it wasn't until doing this deep dive and really like seeing all of the lines that Ahane says where I'm just like, I don't like you.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't really like you.
But like, because Royal here says something disparaging, but it's humorous.
Yeah.
And when Ahane says it, it's just not. It's just mean, Like,
yeah, it's funny.
He's the one who like says it and nobody laughs, and he's like, "Come on, guys, it's me. Don't laugh."
It's funny because like he probably could have said the exact same thing as Royale said here, and we'd still be like, "Oh, that Ahane."
Look at Ahane.
We learned that Royale's walking with a limp.
Yeah.
And Serene's like, it's hard to like.
Apparently tripped at getting out of bed. What a loser.
Okay, rude. But Serene comments on like, she forgets he's like such an old man because of how spry he acts.
Yeah.
Which he's an old man, Jax. Have some.
Tripped getting out of bed, bro.
Dude, you trip getting out of bed sometimes.
You don't know that. Don't act like you're there when I get out of bed and just know that. Anyway.
I'm sure you've tripped getting out of bed before.
Serene got into a rhythm. She's just like picking up boxes out of the car, handing them. They're doing some like, basically Serene's unloading the car into the hands of everybody who's coming, grabbing boxes, going and setting it down.
Doesn't even notice. For 10 minutes
that Raoden has joined the people who are taking boxes from her.
Yeah. And she so she sees him, and then she's talking to Eondale, and he's like, why is he here?
Yeah. Because, well, like, she's getting to the final few boxes, grabs one, goes, places it in his hand, looks up, and is like, you.
Yeah. That was a great reenactment. I like that.
Oh, thanks. And so he tells her she's been there about 10 minutes now. He's like, I arrived just after you began unloading.
Yeah.
I've been here the whole time. So yeah, Eondale, Spirit takes his box away. Eondale comes and gets the box, and she's like, why is he here?
And he goes like, he claims that his master ordered him to watch the distribution. Apparently, Aen didn't trust you about as much as you trust him.
Yeah.
So, yep, blah, 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 blah. She trips.
Yeah, she finishes unloading the boxes, is hopping out of the truck, trips.
Like, lands on the slime and, like, slips on the slime. What a loser.
Dude, what a nerd.
I'm okay with you saying that to Serene, though. So I will not take royal slander.
Okay. So she falls backwards, waving her hands and yelping.
Not expecting that.
Neither were our listeners.
And who's there to catch her?
Oh, Rayoden.
Remember when we said
That's what I was gonna say.
at the beginning of this episode that it was going to be a little loopy? I think Jax has hit his loopy point.
I hit it. It's 11 o'clock now, guys. I'm ready for bed.
Let's zoom through this. He catches her, and then people aren't coming up to get the food. And
Well, he catches her, lifts her back up. Serena pulls her arms out of his helpful grasp and says, "Thank you," she muttered in a very unprincess-like voice. She's like begrudging, like she was falling. He caught her.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But she did notice that his touch was oddly tender.
So tender.
Yeah. And then she noticed that the Elantrians aren't approaching to get food.
Yeah. So she asks Spirit,
like, why aren't they coming? He goes, they're scared and disbelieving. You know, they might think it's an illusion.
Yeah, like a devilish trick their minds have surely played on them hundreds of times.
So Rayoden then picks up a turnip. Takes a bite. Yeah, it takes a bite. So he's like, I'm sure doesn't taste very good.
It's a turnip. It's bitter.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you guys have ever eaten raw turnip.
But she notices that, like, to him, it looks like it's the best thing in the world. And she's like, oh, he's probably just as starving as everyone else.
Like, yeah, she realizes this man was as famished as the rest of them, despite his favored rank. And he had patiently helped unload dozens of boxes filled with food.
Yeah, so like brownie point to Rayoden there.
Brownie point to Rayoden.
And then as soon as he took a bite, everyone was like, oh, it's real. So they start coming forward and, guards put up their spears. They're like, whoa, chill. And Serene's like, let them through, like give them a little space to come and grab food. So they start handing out food. And she sees Ahane give a bag to a little girl who is an Elantrian. And she's like, oh, it's working. Like if I can make Ahane like believe that Elantrians aren't these devils, then like I can convince everyone else.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So she's like, my plan's working. And it kind of is. For what she wanted to do, it's working.
Yeah. Yep. So anyways, realizing it's starting to work, but she sees Rayoden standing at the back of the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And it says his hand raised thoughtfully to his chin as he studied her. He seemed worried, but why? And this is just, again, Rayoden watching his month of work crumble before his eyes.
And she realizes, she's like, he was no lackey. Like, this is the leader.
Yeah.
She clocks it. She's like, he was the leader. For some reason, he felt he needed to hide that fact from her.
Mm-hmm. And so she asks Ash, like, is there any chance we got the names of the leaders wrong?
Yeah, so fast forward to after the food distribution. She's walking back and talking to Ash, and she's like, there's just something about him. And I was like, who? And she's like, Spirit, the guide. Like, are we sure we got the names right for the gang leaders? And he was like, everyone seemed to be convinced that was it. And she was like, how recent?
Yeah. He's like, it's possible that it's wrong.
Yeah.
But I got 15 different witnesses that all said the same thing,
She's like, how recent was this? Blah, blah, blah. And like, have you talked to anyone other than the guards? And he's like, nah, I've mostly been talking to the guards. And I haven't really had time to go into Elantris. Like, I've been doing other things. So not that recent, I guess.
And so Serene's like, he's hiding something. And Ash is throwing his hands up. He's like, my goodness, Serene, like, oh dear, my lady, don't you think you might be overextending yourself? Like, you've decided to confront the Gjorn, liberate the court women from masculine oppression, save Erewhon's economy, and feed Elantris. Perhaps you should just let this man's subterfuge go unexplored. Not to mention saving King Iadon's wealth as well.
Yes, he doesn't even mention that. So she's got 5 essentially impossible tasks.
Yeah.
That, well, I mean, one of them's not that impossible. The saving the court of women is, but like at least 4 impossible tasks to be worrying about. And now she's like, I need to know more about the leader of Elantris.
Yeah, he's like, you've got too much on your plate.
Chill.
And Serene's like, you know what? You're absolutely right. You're gonna do it.
He's like, I don't have time to do it. You are. So go back to the city and find stuff out. And he's like, yes, my lady. Oh, man.
She says here, like, and she kind of repeats what Shuden said earlier. Like, I wonder if we misjudged Elantris.
Yeah.
And Ash is like, I don't know, my lady. It seems pretty barbarous to me. Like,
Yeah.
I witnessed several atrocious acts myself.
Yeah. They talk a little bit more, but they go on. They're walking out.
She's reflecting back on like spirit.
Yes.
And it says he put the lords at ease, conversing with them affably, as if he weren't damned and they the ones who had locked him away.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
But also like that's Raoden's like group of best friends.
Yeah.
You know, like so
like if I became a real Elantrian and then you can't recognize me, but you came into Elantris and I got the chance to just like like get buddy with you, I don't think it would be too hard.
probably not.
Yeah.
But I think I would recognize your like the way you interact with
yeah.
him, you know? So he's got to be putting on
I'm sure.
I feel like he has to be putting on an air.
I'm sure.
So,
but you think I'm dead.
Yeah.
And so like going into Elantris, you wouldn't be looking for it.
Right.
And so obviously, like if I said anything that was like too personal, you would clock it.
Yeah.
But if I was just like being affable, like it wouldn't be too hard to be affable to you.
That's true.
Because I know you so well.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Anyway. For some reason, again, Serene's just kind of reflecting. She's like, for some reason, he seemed particularly concerned with Serene's opinion of him.
Yeah.
Walking out of the entryway toward her own rooms, Serene had to try very hard before she convinced herself that she didn't care what he thought of her. I was like, okay.
They're both kind of like she doesn't know. He knows like, oh, this is my wife. Because we see Raoden just before he was like, she didn't seem to like me very much, sort of thing. And he's almost like musing, like, this is my wife, but like, she doesn't like me. You know, what should I do? And it's funny that Serene doesn't know it's her husband, but she's still like,
I don't care what he thinks.
I kind of do though, you know. Okay,
that's the end of Serene's chapter.
Okay, moving on to Hrathen's. How long are we in?
We're at minute 12.
Okay, we could do this.
We're doing great.
Hrathen's is short.
Hrathen's is like 8 pages.
As long as we don't talk for a half hour about our cosmic question of the week,
then we're
good. Okay, moving on. Hrathen
was hot.
Hrathen is up on the wall of Elantris, watching Serene distribute the food
in full plate armor.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's out in public. He has to be.
Yeah.
And he's musing. He's like, man, this is a masterful move.
Yeah.
To block off. Because there's a bunch of people on the walls of Elantris because they're like, oh my goodness, people are going into Elantris. Like, we want to see the Elantrians tear them apart. Because Hrathen's been spending his month telling everyone that the Elantrians are devils and demons and like, you should hate them.
Yeah.
And so they all go up there and they're like, oh my goodness, like something's going to happen. And they're all disappointed.
Yeah. It said they had come with faces like men watching a sportish shark fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I'm visiting Cell. I want to go to Svorden.
Yeah.
Svordel?
Svordel.
Svorden or Svordel?
Svordel.
We must look Svorden.
Svorden. Gosh dang it.
I would want to go there.
Yeah.
It seems like the most interesting place.
Yeah. Agree.
Right. Like Fjordell. I don't want to be there.
I don't want to be there.
Erelon would be
maybe Dakor Monastery. Maybe.
No, I don't want to go there. That would be terrible. Teod seems like a nice place.
But kind of boring.
Nothing really happening there.
No.
Erelon.
I could go see the glowing city of Elantris.
Yeah, at the time, right now in the book, no, boring.
No.
I mean, Duladin.
They're a bunch of happy-go-lucky farmers. I don't need to see that. can go to Kansas and see that.
Yeah. Anyways, I think Shindo. Jindo, thank you. I think Jindo might be nice.
Yeah.
I've always related Jindo to like Japan.
Yeah, for me, it's like a Tibetan monastery, like an Asian monastery.
And then we don't really hear much about Jared or Hragen, Hrovel, or Gayant.
But thanks for reading all the names.
Yeah, no problem. I think Svorden.
I think Svorden
is where I'd go.
But it says Hrathen watched with resignation
Mm-hmm.
as Elantris' monsters came placidly, refusing to ingest even a single guard, let alone the princess.
Yeah.
So Hrathen's like on top of the wall, like,
crap.
I know what I've been saying.
Yeah.
I really hope something happens. And he's just like watching that, like, gosh dang it.
And he notes, he's like, the princess's move was masterful, castrating Hrathen's devils with one sweep of a brutal scythe known as truth.
Yeah.
Which is great. So he
it says hatred of Elantris would evaporate, for people couldn't fear what they pitied.
Yeah. So he leaves the wall, as everyone else is, because they're like, no show, time to dip.
Yeah.
And a carriage pulls up, and on the side of the carriage is Aeon right eye. So it's Telri's carriage. Hrathen hops in.
Telrai.
Hrathen hops in.
I hate these names. Anyway.
And Telri's not happy.
No, because Telri has been siding with Fjorden.
Mm-hmm.
Not openly.
No.
But like
the plan.
Yeah. You know? And he just watched the plan crumble.
Yeah, but then Hrathen's kind of like, it was only like a small part of the plan. Like, we still have all this going for us. You know, we're still going to undermine Iadon's throne, get you on the throne.
Yeah. He says, my work with Elantris was only a small part of our plan. The instability of Iadon's throne, the embarrassment he will sustain at the next taxing period, is what we should be focusing on. And I just wrote in here, sucker. Because he doesn't realize, and Telri kind of tells him here, like, the king recently found some new contracts in Teod. And Hrathen just like dismisses it. He's like, that won't be enough to recoup his losses.
Yeah, but
because he doesn't realize that he's selling silks at 4 times their value to Teod now.
And might be have like soul
he's got soul mercantile rights.
Yeah, soul mercantile rights in Teod.
Yeah.
Very lucrative contract.
Lucrative contract.
And Hrathen, okay, chill. Hrathen here is kind of putting on a face where like he's being very like, it's fine, like everything's gonna work out. But on the inside, Hrathen's kind of like,
he's screaming like a little girl.
Oh crap! Oh crap! And so they go back and forth a little bit, and then Telri's like, all right, my palace is that way. You can walk the rest of the way. Hrathen.
I love, like, yeah, because they do go back and forth a little bit, like, and Hrathen kind of says, like, I warn you. Not Hrathen. Telri. Like, I warn you, Hrathen. Do not assume me a Duretti pawn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I go along with your plans because you were able to produce the wealth that you promised. But I won't just sit back and push in any direction you wish.
Yeah, which is kind of a little bit of foreshadowing for when Telri does take the throne. He like demands to become a Gjorn.
Yes.
And this is just like, you'll see this little rebellious streak in Telri the whole time, where he's just like, he's not going to let Hrathen tell him to do whatever.
And I think this is an L on Hrathen's part, because I do think Hrathen just sees Telri as a pawn.
He does.
I don't think he sees like any of his planning or scheming or anything. He just assumes that it can be. I mean, it says right here, like, Hrathen clenched his jaw because Telri did. He's like, my mansion is that direction. Telri said, pointing down a side street. You can walk the rest of the way to your chapel, because they're in the carriage.
Yeah.
It's been riding in the same direction, and they kind of tee.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the chapel isn't that far out this way.
Yeah.
You know, like, it wouldn't be, and the polite thing or the, you know, expected thing would be to take him to the chapel and then go to your mansion, and he's like, hit the road. Hrathen clenched his jaw. Someday this man would have to learn proper respect for Derethi officials. For now, however, Hrathen simply climbed out of the carriage. Considering the company, it says, he preferred walking anyway.
Yeah, so they obviously don't like each other. And Telri, I mean, at least he's open about it. Like, he's not just like being a pawn for now and then surprising Hrathen. Like, actually, I'm not listening to a thing you said.
Yeah.
At least he's being like, dude, I'm not gonna listen to you. like, this is a deal. This is not, you are not my Odiv.
Yeah.
Or you are not my Croven.
Croden.
You are not my Croden. Not that Telri would even say that,
No.
but
Not that Telri knows what that is.
Anyways, so, yeah, so Hrathen then walks to the chapel.
And he cuts to the front of the chapel.
Yeah, and he walks up on a couple of priests chatting, and they're like, I've never seen this type of, like, conversion in Erelon. Like, we're getting a lot of converts.
Yeah, it says, I've been serving the Empire in Kai for over a decade, and we've never seen this many conversions in a year. And Hrathen would have just ignored it.
Yeah.
Would have just, like, not even a passing thought, because obviously there's more conversions here than, because Hrathen showed up. Yeah. But Delof is there.
Delof then says, it's been a long while, though I remember a time just after Piet Driot Crushthroat assaulted Teod when there was a wave of conversions in Erelon. Hrathen kind of clocks it.
Yeah. Hrathen's like, what did he just say?
What? Because Driot Crushthroat, Kiine, attacked Teod 50 years ago.
15.
No, 50.
No. 15.
Oh, what happened 50 years ago? That's when they kicked out all the... Sorry, my bad. 50 years ago, Teod kicked out all of the Derethi priests.
Oh, really?
That's what happened 50 years ago. My bad. I mixed those up.
Driot Crushthroat had attacked Teod 15 years before. Now, the reason that this raises some red flags for Hrathen is because Delof looks 25.
Yeah.
And Hrathen has assumed he's around 25.
Yeah.
And he's like,
that math ain't mathin'.
That math ain't mathin', because Delof is talking about conversion rates in Erelon 15 years ago. And he's like, he would have been 10.
Yeah.
Or like, he appears like he would have been 10, you know?
Yeah.
So even if he remembers that happening, he shouldn't know anything about the conversion rates. And so Hrathen then has to kind of rethink his, like, how long has Delof been here? You know,
Yeah.
how much influence does he actually have? How long has he been here? How old is he? He starts taking a little closer look at his face. He can see some signs of age.
Yeah. So it's swapped in Hrathen's mind from a young Ereline Delof, like that just has a lot of religious fervor, into someone who has been playing this game for more than 15 years. He's been here all that time, like gaining favor with all the priests and like learning how to do all this. And so he's like, crap, like Delof is far more seasoned than he led people to assume.
Yes. And I love what it says here is because he comes to this realization, and it says the young, and it puts it in quotes because now he's realizing he's not young.
Yeah.
But it says like the quote unquote young Ereline priest feigned lack of experience. But I thought it was funny, and I threw quotes around Ereline as well.
Yeah.
He's not. He's Fjordell.
Yeah.
So it's like the quote unquote young
quote unquote Ereline. Yeah. But
he doesn't realize that
yet. Yeah. And so Hrathen's thinking he's older than you assumed. He also has influence over Kai's priests for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And he's like clocking it that like, oh, these people aren't accepting the appointment of head artist because they all see Delof as like their senior.
Yeah.
And like it wouldn't be right for them to be like above him. And it's just clogging to him that like Delof has been playing this game a while.
And he also realizes, because when he got to Erelon, he sent away the head artist, sent him back to Fjorden, and a lot of the priests that were with him that were inexperienced or like young or like could have been heavily influenced by that artist.
Yeah.
And he realizes that he culled the numbers of the chapel in Dilof's favor.
Yes.
Like, he's like, because all of the more devout and like steadfast priests would have leaned on Dilof over the head artist.
Yes.
Dyren? No, that's not it. I
Can't
can't remember
remember.
what his name was. But he's like, I literally sent away everybody who wouldn't have been faithful to Dilof and kind of shot myself in the foot.
Now, here's the thing, though, because we know Dilof is the head of a monastery.
Right.
So how long do you think he's actually been in Erelon?
I don't know.
It's
It
impossible
can't have
to
been
say.
that long.
No, because I would assume he came to Erelon by Wern's command because they're getting ready to trash it,
Yeah.
take it over.
So I would assume post fall of Duladel.
Yeah, which means he probably only got there at most a couple months before.
4 months maybe before
Maybe.
Freythin did.
I mean, really at most it could be 6 months.
Yeah.
But I just don't
It
really
can't have been that
see.
long. But like nobody's contradicting the story
Mm-mm.
to Freythin.
And I wonder if it's more of like a Dilof came in and immediately started like acting like someone all these priests can trust, and then immediately started, getting odivs of all these priests. And
Here's the thing, though: most of these the Derethi priests aren't sworn odivs to Dilof. It's all the new Ereline converts that he's been swearing.
yeah,
to
but I
Odiv.
also wouldn't be surprised if he has a couple of the priests.
I think maybe, but it says here like the Ardith held 2 firm grips over Freythin. First, Dilof still had power over many of Freythin's strongest converts through his Odiv oaths. So that's kind of saying that like that's where most of his Odiv oaths are.
Yeah.
And then second, the artist's unofficial leadership of the chapel was growing more and more secure. So I feel like there are 2, like maybe there are some of the priests that have sworn to him.
Yeah.
But when they can't have done that before Freythin made him an actual artist.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think he could have like told any of the
That's what I've been
artists
wondering too, is like, do the other artists know
No.
that he's a Grogdet?
Yeah.
And that like he came to them and he's like, hey, this is who I am. You need to not accept this position of head artist.
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder, because like Grogdet and Gjorn are almost the same, except he's one of the top 3 Grogdets.
yes. So Grogdets sit outside of the chain of command.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to place them.
Yeah.
But I think if they were inside, it's like right above.
I would almost say like regular monasteries, Gjorn level.
Yeah.
For the 3 top ones, probably above.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder if Dilof could have been like swearing them to secrecy sort of thing, or if he even has that kind of power to be like, hey, you'll have to lie to the Gjorn. I don't know.
It's kind of crazy.
But he does. He's basically gotten all the priests under his wing sort of thing. He's taken over this chapel. But he's kind of thinking to himself, and then he realizes, what, do you have something to say?
No, you're probably going there. Keep going.
He realizes that there's a more disturbing problem.
Yeah, so he's got those big 2 problems with Dilof.
Yeah.
Of like all of his Odiv oaths.
Yep.
And the control he has over the other like priests. And then his bigger
problem, Freythin could face external forces, but his internal wavering, however, was something entirely different. So there's more cracks.
Yeah.
There's more cracks in his armor of like, he's questioning his faith. It's just like, it's crazy. Like if you were to put it into like real world, whatever, like let's say you have the Pope, right? And the Pope is Wern. And then the Pope has like a council or whatever. And you have one of those members of the council being like, do I even have faith in this religion? It's not good. Okay. It's not good.
It's not great.
It's not great.
So he reaches into his desk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Hrathen's a minimalist. He does not have a lot of possessions.
Yep.
Never has. But he's never had enough possessions to feel the need to get rid of this little book that he's got. So he reaches into his desk, pulling out a small book, and it says he flipped through the aging pages, selecting the one he was looking for. Now, this is a book that Hrathen himself has written in.
It's like his journal.
It's his like conversion, like spiritual experiences book.
Yeah, because in the priesthood, like they want you to write down any like spiritual experiences you have and all that, but he's never really done that much. He's never been good at it.
No, but he's got a very early one, and it says, "I have found purpose. Before I lived, but I didn't know why. I have direction now. It gives glory to all that I do. I serve in Lord Yadith's empire, and my service is linked directly to him. I am important."
Yeah.
And this is like just getting into the priesthood of Shudira, young Hrathen.
Yeah, it said it was a few weeks after his decision to join the priesthood, just before he entered Dakor Monastery.
Yeah. And so then he's reading this, and Omen's question comes back to his head, like, what happened to your faith, Hrathen? And he's just like pondering this.
And it's tearing him apart.
Yeah.
Really. He's just like, what, like, do I even have faith, or do I just like the stability of the church now? Like, what's going on? Like, did he just find converting Erelon to be like an invigorating challenge?
It says, how does preaching become a logical challenge and not a spiritual quest? And it says he knew in part that it had.
Yeah.
He enjoyed the planning, the confrontation, and the thinking it took to convert an entire nation of heretics. Even with Delof distracting him, Hrathen found the challenge of Erelon invigorating.
He goes on to say, like, what happened to the boy Hrathen? What of the faith and almost unthinking passion he had once felt? He could barely remember it. That part of his life had passed quickly, his faith transforming from a burning flame into a comfortable warmth.
Yeah. And then he kind of poses the question to himself, like, why do I want to succeed here? Like, what is the purpose? And I was like, is it for the notoriety? Was it the desire to be obedient? Was it because he seriously thought conversion would help the people? Like, all of these, like, why is it? And it says his heart was as unclear to him as a room filled with smoke.
Yeah, I like that.
He doesn't know why.
Yeah. And he goes,
because those are all valid reasons, right? Like, was it a desire to be obedient? He had a direct order from Wern.
Yeah.
You know, was it for the notoriety? Like, the man who converted Erelon would be known in Shudira forever. You know, like, valid reasons, but he just doesn't know.
Yeah, and he goes on to be like, do I just think, like, why am I avoiding like a bloody massacre like in Duladen? Because like that would definitely, like, we can change Erelon quickly. Why am I not going that way? Is it because I know it's harder to do it without a massacre? And it's like, is that why I'm holding back? And then he goes on to say, like, Delof had faith. Delof believed in what he was doing. What did Hrathen have? He wasn't certain anymore. Yeah. And that's Hrathen's chapter, and that's all the reading for this week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the chapters this week. I know I did. They were nice and short, and I liked them this week.
And on to our Cosmere question of the week.
Yeah, we're going to finish off with our Cosmere question of the week segment. This question is going to come from, did you have something to say?
No, I was going to say exactly what you were about to say. This is from one of our TikTok posts.
So we did a reintroduction post on our TikTok, and we opened up the comment sections for Cosmere questions. And JT commented, if Tien didn't die, what would his truths be? Because
Which is an excellent question. So for those of you who don't know, Tien was really close to bonding a
cryptic
before he died.
Yeah.
And had already not like sworn any ideals, but had already been manifesting light weaving abilities.
Yes.
That was in part why Tien was able to affect Kaladin in such a positive way, because light weavers through their investiture can actually just like affect people in how they perceive them,
Yeah, it's almost like the way you said that just barely made me think of like soothers or rioters.
Yeah.
In a way that they can affect people and how they're feeling. But we'll get into that maybe another day. So, when you become a light weaver, instead of doing normal ideals, you instead do what they call truths.
Yeah. So the first ideal for all the orders is the same.
Yeah.
Which is life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination.
Yes.
We all know. But post that, light weavers are all truths. And like the more hidden and potentially dark, I guess.
Yeah.
Your truth.
The more, yeah, it's hard to.
The deeper
The lie, the better the truth.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Which I gotta think, like, cryptics are attracted to lies. What do you think Tien was lying about? That he attracted a cryptic?
I just don't know.
Because we have Serene, obviously. She lots of lies, lots of deep, buried truths.
And here's the thing: is like I don't even think that it has to be like lies, because Shallan was lying to herself.
Yes.
But then you also see Elokar, who was kind of in the same stage that Tien was, and I think his lies were more insecurities.
Sure.
And so there's like that aspect of it too, where it's not like you have to lie and not confront parts of yourself, but like Elokar just had these massive insecurities, and I think that's kind of what attracted his cryptic.
So the question stands, what would Tien's truths be? Well, it's hard to say because he didn't end up bonding, and I'm sure the truths could have been stuff that happened more throughout his story. I'm not sure if he really had any truths to come out before
I don't
he died.
know that he had a lot of like skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
I feel like one of probably, and this is going to be my headcanon.
Okay.
And the reason why Tien was attracting a
Cryptic
was his insecurity of not belonging anywhere. We know that Tien like had bounced around to a couple, like, or was trying to find a spot to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't handle blood.
Yeah.
And so he couldn't partake in his father's practice of being a surgeon. So that was Cal's job.
He was also like a runt, pretty much. He was smaller than he should have been. So he obviously probably couldn't have done much physical labor or like worked in the farms.
Right.
Or anything like that.
So he ends up working with a woodworker.
Mm-hmm.
And Tien can create beautiful like art pieces and whatnot, which I think in part is some of his light weaving abilities showing. Yeah. But even those things that he's creating, he's getting like shot down.
Backlash. Yeah.
It's still not enough because he's carving this beautiful horse, and the carpentry master is like, I told you to make a chair.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably Tien's insecurity of like not having a place, not fitting in, like not having a purpose, I guess.
So maybe like his first truth would be something like, I don't fit in anywhere.
Yeah.
And that would be his truth.
Yeah.
And he's accepted that. And that would be, him moving on to the second ideal. So there's one. I think there, like, anything past that, it's really hard to say.
Yeah.
But I liked that.
And we just really we don't see a lot of Tien.
No. Which is sad. I think great character.
Good character.
Had to die, I guess, for Cal's story.
Dude, Cal's story's rough.
Dude, I'm in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm rereading Way of Kings right now.
I'm about to be jumping into Way of Kings. I'm about to finish the Lost Metal. I've been flying through these.
This guy flies through books. I finished the Lost Metal 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 now. I maybe got halfway through Warbreaker.
Did you finish the Lost Metal before or after Isles of the Emberdark?
After.
After.
Yes.
Okay. Continue.
Okay. I read maybe half of Warbreaker and I realized I didn't really want to be on Nalthis right now.
Okay.
So then I jumped into
Oathbringer? No.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did. Because I was like, okay, so me and Jax have only read Wind and Truth once. And I was like, what?
Your camera just said reconnecting, but it looks like it's still going.
Cool. Me and Jax had only read Wind and Truth once, and I was like, dude, I gotta reread it. But I didn't want to just like jump into Wind and Truth. So I was like, I'll just start at Oathbringer. Right?
Yeah.
And then I'll read Rhythm of War, because I need to reread Rhythm of War anyways.
Because he's read Way of Kings and Words of Radiance
multiple times.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm just going to skip those ones and read the last 3. And I got maybe like a fifth way into Oathbringer, and I was like, nah, I want to read Way of Kings. So then I jumped back to Way of Kings. All of this to say, I have not finished a book in the last month-ish.
Other than Lost Metal.
Other than Lost Metal. But I was already like, I had read most of Lost Metal, and then Isles came out. I read Isles, and then I went back to Lost Metal, and I finished it.
Okay. So, in that same time period, so right before Isles, I finished The Well of Ascension.
One book.
Right before Isles.
Okay, yeah.
So then I paused my Mistborn journey.
Yep.
And read Isles of the Emberdark.
Okay.
So we both read Isles of the Emberdark around the same time.
Yeah. Well,
since then, you finished half of the Lost Metal and half of Warbreaker. And then
a fifth of Oathbringer, and I'm just now in Way of Kings.
So I didn't go straight back to Mistborn.
Mm-mm.
I went to Warbreaker.
Yep.
Read all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I read the
Hero of Ages.
Mm-hmm. And then I read Wax and Wayne Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, and I'm halfway through Book 4 in that same time period. And Mistborn Secret History, if we want to count that. I actually fell asleep reading it, so I didn't finish it. So
he's read
reread it.
5.5 books. And I read half a book. Well, I finished half a book, read another half a book, read a fifth of a book, and I'm like maybe a 10th into Way of Kings.
And we just lost video on Jake's camera.
Oh well.
But
finish it out.
Yeah, that's gonna wrap up our episode.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Jax, where can they find us?
You guys can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts other than Amazon. Maybe we don't need to say that, but anywhere you listen to podcasts other than Amazon, you can find us at Into the Coppermind. And same thing on TikTok, YouTube, Into the Coppermind.
Yeah, go follow the TikTok. That's pretty much all we have for you guys. I don't know why I'm looking at the camera.
I don't know.
They can't see me.
You ain't got a camera. You wanna sign off on my camera?
Join us next week as we dive into the Coppermind.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.